Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique Johnson-Lindsay, and I want to welcome you to the Active Listener podcast by Lightspeed. As a lifelong learner and the daughter of a Navy veteran who became an elementary school teacher, education and service are in my DNA. This foundation, paired with my love of technology, led me to these conversations with remarkable minds shaping the K-12 landscape. Join us as we amplify these vital voices and explore how active listening remains foundational to educational excellence. Whether you're an educator, administrator, or someone passionate about the future of education, there's something here for you to learn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Active Listener Podcast. Today, I have Sharyn D'Eon joining me. She is from the Chesterfield School District. She is a principal, and I'm so happy to have her join us. This is one of my first conversations in a really long time from someone up north. So I'm super excited because I'm always filled with the people out west or down south. So this is totally different for me. So welcome, Sharyn. Before we get started, I would love for you to just kind of introduce yourself and give us a little background about you.
Sure. My name is Sharyn D'Eon. I'm the principal of Chesterfield Elementary School, which is a K-8 school in southwestern New Hampshire. I've been here, a long time. I'll just leave it at that. And prior to becoming the principal, I was the assistant principal here. And then I taught for 13 years in the Keene school system. And I taught everything from kindergarten to grade 5. So I had a little bit of dabbling and a little bit of everything. So in addition to that, I've also done some adjunct work at Keene State College for their teacher preparatory program.
I love it. So I always like to start at the beginning, which is more of why education? I'm always interested, especially people with really long careers, about what got you here and what keeps you here.
I think the thing that keeps me here is the kids. I'm in a very unique situation where we have them for 9 years, starting in kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. So they really come in as these little toddlers, and you watch them grow into these young men and women. The aha moments of, capturing something that they've seen for the first time or learn to solve an algebraic equation. It's very refreshing and enlightening in the current world that we live in to see that excitement and passion for learning.
I love it, especially because, like you said, K through 8 is such a long span. So the things that you get to have the aha moments about early on, they definitely look different on that back end when they're getting ready to go to high school. That's such a journey.
It is. And one of our 8th grade teachers always writes a 5-year essay, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And many of those students come back to share with us if they've achieved their goals or not. So it's really kind of unique. Yeah.
I love it. So I'm going to start with your district because, as I said, your district, just remembering kind of meeting you and talking to you, your district sounded so unique to me, especially because it's a rural district, even down to when you were talking about the budgeting. So talk a little bit about what you feel like makes the district unique and then even the culture and the team that you've already built there.
Okay, so I think a couple of things. So one, we are in the southwest corner of New Hampshire. So we're about an hour and a half away from Boston, Hartford, or we're even going to the seacoast to see the Atlantic Ocean. So it's kind of neat to be there. What else is so unique about us? I guess we have an extremely supportive community. And our parents, we are still old-fashioned, and we come out every year in March to vote down or up our school budget. And every line item is discussed on the floor, and everybody has an opportunity to participate. So it really is a golden opportunity to be a part of our learning community from the ground up. And again, we've seen parents come, we've seen grandchildren come, we've seen aunts and uncles come. And, they always have a story about, well, when I was there, this happened. The school's almost, I think, 80 plus years old. So we have a really long-standing tradition of families sticking around in the area.
I love that. And I think that's so important. And one thing, a lot of people talk about is kind of having this parental support or like just engagement. And it's good that you not only have it with the families, but also with the community. One of the things that stood out to me was you talking about allowing people to come in and like observe or I thought that was very unique. So what makes you kind of open to do that? And what does that process look like as far as how you kind of get everybody on board to let it happen?
Right. Well, I think, we are a public school. So, we take all kids, all learners, and we do the best we can with our tax base, which we are one of the only states in the country who funds education through property tax. So you can imagine how limited that is. So our local budget committee members, our fire department, our police department, the doors are always open. Community members are welcome to come in, have lunch with the kids, talk to the kids about the school. I open it up for volunteerism. We have several acres of land behind our school, and we do outdoor education. So some community members will come in and share their talents about, maybe it's birds or the types of trees that we have. So really, it's an opportunity for everybody to shine, including adult learners who are still learning themselves.
I like that. And that makes total sense. And I feel like, one of the things that comes to mind for me as you're talking about this is allowing people in kind of helps debunk what people think is happening inside the schools. And I feel like that's one of the strongest opportunities that districts and schools have, is to kind of let people know what is actually going on there and not just be bogged down by the numbers and the statistics or the media stories, but, truly what is happening day to day, because there's so much good stuff happening in schools all the time.
Yeah. And you really did hit it on the head. We've had people say, well, I think there's too many adults in your school. And I'm like, well, why don't you come in and see? Then once they get here, they're like, oh, there aren't that many people in a classroom. I'm like, no, there isn't. Because they move around, they're not just stuck to one place all day long. So, yeah, we have an open door policy.
I love it. So, obviously, have mentioned the budget, line item by line item approval. We know one of the things that you've been able to have approved is Lightspeed products. So, that in and of itself is just exciting to hear that. Sometimes I feel like when we know that people have purchased, we're not sure how much or how little people know about the products because, they're part of a bigger budgeting initiative. But obviously, line item by line item suggests that people kind of know it's there.
Right.
Talk to me about, one, just the knowledge that you had coming into the Lightspeed products, and then talk about being able to keep those products over a long period of time.
So I was really fortunate. I want to say 12, 14 years ago, our special ed director at the time, her and I were talking about some of our current students. We've had several kids who have come through here. We used to have the Austin School of the Deaf not too far away from us, as well as another school in Massachusetts. So we did have students who had hearing disabilities. But in addition to that, we were seeing more and more kids with central auditory processing issues. And she talked to me about this product, and I reached out to one of the sales reps who came out and did a demonstration with us, and I immediately fell in love with it. One, because you see my voice is already going, how much it saves a teacher's voice in a day. You don't realize talking for 6.5 straight hours, what that does for your vocal strain. And having the Red Cat not only is amplifying the teacher's voice, but it's reducing all of the other sounds in the classroom at the same time. So we ordered a set for, I think it was our primary grades at first, and the success rate was enormous. So we quickly used some grant funding to buy them for the rest of the school. And we actually have them in every single classroom. And I think all but 2 staff members currently use them. Some don't use them for medical reasons. But overall, I think it makes a big difference for our kids. Again, we're a rural school. We have fields in the front and the back of the school with lots of distractions, playground noises, trucks driving by. This amplification just reduces that distraction for our kids. And it doesn't matter what direction they're looking in the classroom, they're still getting a really good signal from the teacher. So that's kind of my spiel, 12, 13 years of having staff, they come running to me when their mic stops working. You got to fix this quick. Something I can't teach today to get my mic fixed. I'm like, no, you can teach without your mic, but I'll get that fixed for you. So they've almost become dependent on it a little bit too, because they feel the difference.
I love that. And I feel like that's the most important part, is it works both ways. Like, we definitely love to kind of play up or emphasize the duality of it, because for a lot of teachers, we talk to them and they say, I don't need a mic, I have a teacher voice. And for them, we say, but what about the students? This gives them a different experience, even if your voice is perfectly fine. But the reality of it is it even works on the opposite side. So it's the fact that you get to put that teacher voice down sometimes and not, you're always operating at 80 and 90% when you can bring that down and just have that regular speaking voice, but everyone can hear it. That's what we really want. And I love to see people experience. I even talk about as a remote employee, when I finally got a chance to experience it, I was like,
yes.
What?
Yeah. Well, we had them in the classroom to start with, but we actually bought a portable device to put into our gymnasium so that we could use it for all school assemblies. And again, it wasn't to be a PA system, but it was enough to cut out some of the acoustical stuff that you get in a gymnasium, and you didn't get that reverberation. And the kids were like, oh, I can understand it better. So I guess, it's kind of through trial and error, and we've just seen so much success with it. I'd hate to have to be without it. I really would.
Of course, I love that as a Lightspeed person, but I love that for the school experience, obviously. Talking about, just having the portable system, that was something, newer to our product line. Red Cats have been around for forever. Mobile PA has not been around. I don't even know if it has been around 5 full years yet. But I do think even in those large spaces, that opportunity to just kind of get that clear and equitable sound. We've had PE teachers that kind of talk about using them and that kind of stuff, where it's like, it truly does make a difference, even in an environment where you think like, well, we're not going to be talking that much, or we only have to do a couple of things here and there, but it still has that impact. And I mean, PE teachers and, people in assemblies, they probably yelled the most.
Well, that, and, like I said, our school is almost 80 something years old. So, I call it a cafegimatorium, because we use our PE room for everything. We eat lunch in there. So it's attached to the cafeteria. So there's always cooking going on in there. And then the other 3 sides have hallways. So you constantly have kids passing, going out to recess, coming in for music. So that sound is all around it. And our school really wasn't built to be soundproof. So again, the device just helps stabilize that teacher's voice for everybody to hear it.
I love it. And I think what comes to mind for me, like as a follow-up question, is obviously thinking through Lightspeed. That is one piece of technology. It's a hardware piece of technology. But what is kind of your viewpoint on technology in the school and like the role that technology plays in a school? Because, and I'm asking this because I think at some point people do become overly dependent on technology, but to the benefits that we talked about today, there is something to having the right tools in the right place. So kind of like, what's your viewpoint on it?
It's an interesting question that you should ask, because our state just passed a no cell phone in school, bell-to-bell ban. So all of our students, preschool through 12th grade, are not allowed to have their cell phones out during school time. So it's been eye-opening for some students to realize how much they rely on that technology to communicate both with peers, friends, and family. But I do think there's a large, large place in education for technology. We're able to use our Promethean boards and take our kids into the ocean and to watch eaglets being born in a nest. Our kindergarten kids during rest time are always asking, could you put the webcam on so we can see what animals are down in the forest? So it's bringing the outside in. And for some kids, they don't always get that. So that's really nice. And then you have the other aspect for some of our learning disabled kids. We use Read Write Google, and that helps kids who might have motorical issues who can't type, or kids who are struggling with reading. It will assist them in their reading. So again, I think it's the teacher's responsibility to develop that recipe. What's the perfect blend for each student? And we have a lot of discussion as a staff about that. And, we like to try new things, new products, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then, adapt it to each kid's needs.
That makes total sense. And it's so important to even hear how, because I think some of what you're talking about even goes outside of the traditional bounds that people know. We always think
Mhm.
about tech at the simplest forms, like one-to-one devices and that kind of stuff. But it's so much more than that. Like, I love the idea that you said bringing the outside in. I'm like, I love
Mhm.
that, especially being from the South, where at some point we don't like to be outside anymore because it is burning hot. Even though I love the heat for the most part, but that is a good opportunity, and even to the point where it allows, students to experience other landscapes that they might
Mhm.
not experience, in their
Mhm.
local environment and stuff like that. So I think that's so cool
Yeah.
for you to talk about.
Yeah.
I think from here, my question is more like future forward. So what do you feel like is next on the horizon, not only for technology, but for
Mm.
education as a whole?
What I think or what I would like to see.
I'll take both if you have
Um,
it.
I guess for me, I've been in education 30 plus years now, and I feel like we really haven't changed the school day calendar, and we need to. We're slowly shifting to a standards based proficiency model versus the ABCD model. And along with that, I would love to see us do away with grade levels and really take each individual kid and develop their educational plan as they grow. Because some kids grow a little quicker some years, some take a little bit longer. But I like to see a kid, and we're actually doing this in some of our grade levels, where during reading time, they might move around and go see a different teacher. And we may be grouping them by a reinforcement that they might need or an enrichment that they might need. And so we're constantly moving the kids to different people and kind of meeting their strengths. So along with that, being able to use the technology both for enrichment purposes or additional research. Kid might have a real passion on something and finish the assignment early, so we give them a different project to dig a little bit deeper. And what that's done is kind of allowed kids to explore different careers and think about their future and their pathways. I have just recently started talking a little bit with the high school that we send our students to, and we're talking about our kids being very well prepared for high school. And again, I think that's the K-8 model. But we have some eighth graders that midway through the year they're ready for high school. Why are we holding them back? High schools across America now are relying 11th and 12th graders to take college courses and get college credit while still in high school. I don't know why we can't look at middle school students and do the same for them looking at high school. So I'm very optimistic that education hopefully will switch, change, and kind of morph a little bit because let's face it, our kids are wired differently. The professions that they're going to be in are going to be very different than what they were 30 years ago, and we have to prepare them for that.
Agreed. And this is something I'm so passionate about. I literally have someone coming on the podcast that's going to talk more about this, but I'm so passionate about that because I think you kind of framed it perfectly. But a lot of the jobs that the kids will work, they
Mhm.
don't exist or they're just getting started and we don't know all the details. I think about even my job. And I kind of had that same
Yeah.
experience where, marketing meant one thing. And then by the time I came, social media was a thing. So marketers do social media and that kind of stuff. And so I love the idea of just getting them exposed to and understanding earlier what's possible. So you can kind of start deep diving in. It's so interesting because I think the current model has it set up. So the first time you're exposed to something, it's like, it's almost time for you to pick what you think you want to do. And you're like,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and in the world of education too, it's really hard. You go to a 4-year university, and in some instances, you don't get into the classroom until your 4th year. Well, what happens if you don't like it? You've just spent 4 years, A, paying for tuition, B, doing the studies, and now I don't want to teach. Thanks. So, I think the more exploration we could do with our kids, the better off we are. And who knows what the job market will be, 10 years from now? Don't know. I'm curious. I'll have to watch for your podcast on that one.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. So that was a great point. So we're almost at time. Before I let you go, I have couple more questions, and then I have my 2 fun questions that I always ask every guest. So I think to kind of round it out, one question I would like to ask is, looking back over your decades of experience, do you have it really doesn't have to be a singular moment, but if it is, perfect. But do you have almost like a period in time that you feel like was most pivotal for like your career?
Pivotal for my career. That is a great question. I apologize. My lights are starting to dim here. Pivotal time. Oh gosh. I think maybe it was when I was teaching at the college level and I got to see adult learners. It kind of refocused me a little bit to realize that we don't stop learning after high school, after the age of 18, that anybody at any age can pursue a new career, a new passion, and be very successful at it. Again, it's that whole aha moment when a person has it. And it's like, that's what I'm going to do. That I think is what really brought me to stick with education.
I love it. Well, you are obviously doing a wonderful job. I remember meeting you and kind of getting my base level questions together for this. And I'm not sure if you remember.
I do.
But I was like, oh, let's talk about teacher retention. And you're like, we don't have that problem. We have really nice culture. We do the things that we're supposed to do. And I was like, okay, well, talk about, engagement. You're like, we really don't have that problem because and I'm like, this is perfect. So I think my last question is if you could offer advice to someone about all the great things that you're doing in your district, kind of what would you tell them to get started? I feel like the bow I want to wrap around this part of it is a lot of times when people think about advice, I always think about what would somebody say on the receiving end, like, we don't have those resources, or we don't have this kind of relationship, or we don't have this, so we can't do this. But I think there's always something to like start where you are, start with what you have. So keeping that in mind, what kind of advice would you offer to someone based on all the great things you do?
I guess I would have to start, with my interviews and putting together my team. I look for certain individuals. Some of the questions that I ask in the interview, I want to have a real rounded team. And then I believe in shared leadership. So we take turns within our building being team leaders for different projects and different things. I also have what I call a capacity. So you could be team leader for 2 years, but then you need to pass the baton to somebody else. That way, everybody gets that opportunity to see what it's like sitting in that chair, having to make those tough decisions. But I've also seen some great things happen. Leadership has really developed from within. And, our schools had cutting edge things such as a math specialist and a reading specialist and, data specialists. And they just have really fine-tuned where their passion is. And then they've coached others to follow them. And I think that's what's made our school really, really strong. Again, I mentioned earlier our outdoor education program. I had 1 or 2 teachers that were very passionate about it. Now I think I have 12 that are very passionate about it. And they're taking kids outside. They're making mandalas out of leaves and sticks and stones and acorns and doing color patterns, and who would ever think, right? And the finished product just blows you away. And then, what that teacher did rubs off on the kids. They go home, they do it with their parents, they do it with their grandparents, and they're excited. So that kind of all builds into who we are as a school. And again, the shared leadership, I think, is a really big part.
I love it. And I think that's an excellent way to lead. Like, I love just hearing the idea of that, especially considering that is something that is often a really hard part of being in any team, really, is like understanding leadership. And it's not only, people saying like, oh, well, you report to a certain leader and they lead a certain kind of way, but you being able to lead. I like when you talk about that, like understanding how people make those hard decisions, because I feel like when you're not doing them, your perspective of that is totally different. And when you step into the driver's seat, it definitely shifts how you feel about, this was not.
And we all have our, I don't want to say a personal agenda, but we have that personal passion that we really want to bring forward. And you have to learn the give and takes of relationships of, how do you work with a staff of 76 people and 300 plus kids? 600 plus parents, a community. And so you really have to learn those things as a classroom teacher or a specialist or principal. And so I walk the walk.
I believe it. I can tell. I love it. So before I let you go, I want to ask you my two fun questions.
Okay.
Primarily because I like to hear all the unique answers. So first question is, which you kind of already touched on this, but you may have a different answer too. If you could change one thing about the educational landscape, what would it be?
I think it would be the schedule, overall schedule. Yeah, I just 180 days isn't enough. You know, we have to think differently. We just do. There's too much summer loss. You know, kids do really well when they have a schedule and they know the expectation for each day. They want it. They look for that. So that would probably be my change.
Speaking of, you all also do this like jumpstart program, right? It's like a 4 or 5. I remembered that. I was like that was another thing that was really cool. So I remember that. Okay, final question.
Sure.
What is your favorite sound in the whole world?
Sound?
Yeah, and it can be anything.
I think it's the ocean crashing against the waves. There's something about that. So before the school year begins every year, I find myself on the coast of Maine, just closing my eyes and letting like my whole body reset by listening to that. There's something about it, just cleanses my soul and gets me ready for the new school year. And I'm recharges me. I just love it.
I love it. As a beach person, totally different coast, but as a beach person, I love that answer.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank you so much. This was so good. And I truly just love everything that you're doing. This was so refreshing to hear from a school leader, and you make me excited to want to come to New Hampshire.
Come anytime you want. We'd love to have you. You've got a whole range of grade levels to pick from.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's all for today's Active Listener. Thanks for tuning in. Share your comments on this episode on our Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn social media pages. You can visit our website at lightspeed-tech.com to learn more about our mission to ensure every student hears every word. And subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Until next time, let your listening be as active as your learning.